Hello, this is Joseph Hoffman, and I will be going over my presentation. On the first slide is the title, ESPN Reaching for the Stars. At first, I'm going to start with an introduction. I chose Entertainment and Sports Programming Network, or as it is better known as ESPN, as my company, and I'm going to concentrate on the company's reach. When I say reach, I simply mean what parts of the population are being reached by their media. They often refer to themselves as the worldwide leader in sports, and that is for a very good reason. They are not just a sports channel for your hometown or your local sports team, they're global. Just to give you a little bit of background on the company, they were formed in Bristol, Connecticut in 1978. The original plan was to have a cable network dedicated to Connecticut based sports: the New England Whalers, the Bristol Red Sox, the University of Connecticut Huskies, just to name a few. It launched on September 7th, 1979 at 7 p.m. Since then, it has grown leaps and bounds from what anybody had expected. On the next slide, covering all media bases. When you mention ESPN, some people only think of their television cable network, but they have expanded far beyond the single cable channel they once were. In March of 1998, they launched ESPN the magazine. It now reaches 14 million readers with every issue. On New Year's Day in 1992, ESPN launched ESPN Radio, which is now spread out to over 400 radio stations, reaching 24 million listeners. In April of 1995, ESPN.com was launched, and now with all of their web traffic combined, they are being clicked on by more than 62 million internet viewers. On the next slide, reach is now global. ESPN has come from being broadcast in just Connecticut to now being broadcast in 61 countries, spreading over all 7 continents. ESPN is aired in 4 different languages: English, Spanish, French, and Portuguese. It has also been declared the leading media brand across the entire globe, not just the nation. They have also capitalized from using social media sites, gaining more than 30 million fans globally. On the next slide, covering all sports. ESPN does their best at covering every sport known to mankind and beyond. They currently cover more than 130 different leagues and sports. They have contracts with Major League Baseball, the National Football League, the National Basketball Association, and numerous others to make sure that they're covering all of the big time events. They also established and still control the X Games or Extreme Games. These games include BMX bikes, skateboarding, surfing, snowboarding, and rally racing, to name a few. Covering all these sports requires producing tons of video. In 2014 alone, they produced more than 47,000 hours of video. On the next slide, television key programming. ESPN operates 8 domestic cable networks. They are ESPN, ESPN2, ESPN News, ESPNU, ESPN Classic, ESPN Deportes, Longhorn Network, and the SEC, or Southeastern Conference Network. One of the biggest shows they broadcast is SportsCenter. It is their flagship sports news program and debuted on ESPN's first day on the air and has ran ever since. It covers game highlights and news. Currently, it averages 115 million viewers every month. That is the equivalent of over 35% of the U.S. population. It is also in contract with the National Football League to televise Monday Night Football all the way through the year 2021. They also have sport-specific programming for the National Hockey League, Major League Baseball, the National Basketball Association, and the National Football League. On the next slide, ESPN the magazine. ESPN the magazine launched in 1998 and has grown by huge numbers. Currently, each issue is being read and flipped through by over 15 million people. The magazine has also won several awards for their photography from American Illustration and Photography, and from the Best American Sports Writing for their columns. On the next slide, ESPN Radio. ESPN Radio is the largest sports radio network in the country. It launched in 1992 and is currently being broadcast to more than 400 radio stations across the globe. More than 24 million listeners are tuning in to listen to their favorite sports talk show. They produce more than 8,500 hours of radio programming annually. They have popular talk show personalities, including the Mike and Mike Show with host Mike Greenberg and Mike Golick, The Herd with Colin Cowherd, and SVP and Russillo, starring Scott Van Pelt and Ryan Russillo. On the next slide, ESPN Online. ESPN has more than a dozen websites under its control. These include ESPN.com, Grantland.com, 5 local ESPN sites for the cities of Chicago, Boston, Dallas, New York, and Los Angeles, ESPNradio.com, ESPNdeportes.com, ESPNW.com, which focuses on women's sports, ESPNFC.com, ESPNCRICinfo.com, ESPNScrum.com, XGames.com, ESPNF1.com, and SECSports.com. They rank number 1 amongst all sports properties in the world. They receive more visitors than the number 1 and 2 companies on the list combined. All of their websites combined receive 75 million unique visitors monthly. That's not the same person visiting the website 3 or 4 times a month. It's 75 million unique visitors a month. This web traffic equates to 6.8 billion usage minutes a month. On the next slide, ESPN Holdings. Ownership of ESPN has passed through a couple of hands, with ABC originally owning 100%, but later sold 20% to Nabisco, who then sold those shares to the Hearst Corporation. ABC had their own sports segment at the time known as ABC Sports, but once they acquired ESPN, it changed to ESPN on ABC. This allowed ESPN to reach even more of the population, especially those who didn't have cable television. On the next slide, households reached. As you can see on this graph, ESPN really is the worldwide leader in sports. It is more than double its nearest competitor and is reaching more homes than its top 2 competitors combined. At over 400,000 homes being invaded by their programming, they will not be going away anytime soon. Thank you.